Well, hi everyone, welcome to our daily blog for the second Monday of our journey through Lent, and I hope you're enjoying these little blogs about the work of Walter Brueggemann and seeking to walk with God rather than just be ourselves. And well, I certainly am, I know that much. Today's blog is really about some words of a prayer from a gentleman called Richard of Chichester. You may have heard it before. It's called Seeing More Clearly, Loving More Dearly and Following More Nearly. It's a prayer we've been using a lot in our Sunday worship, so you may have heard it before. I'll just read it out to you in its entirety. Thanks be to you, our Lord Jesus Christ, for all the benefits which you have given me, for all the pains and the insults which you have borne for me. Most merciful Redeemer, friend and brother, may I know you more clearly, love you more dearly, and follow you more nearly, day by day. I love that prayer. It was handed down by, as I say, Richard of Chichester, sort of in the 1200s, but it's stood the test of time and can be just as relevant today. But what I hadn't seen before until I read this by Walter Brueggemann is how it can relate to some of the biblical stories, and one in particular he draws out for today is the story of the blind man and his healing in John chapter 9. It's an amazing story, really. There's a place called the Pool of Siloam, which is just on the edge of Jerusalem, and its significance was that it was about a pool the size of an Olympic swimming pool, and it was the main place of purification that pilgrims had to go through on their way to the temple from all over Israel and further afield beyond. And so hundreds, thousands of people would be there at any one time, especially at the key festival times. And it seems to be at this place that Jesus goes and heals the blind man. Why is that important? Well, because the temple authorities and also the Pharisees, they were in charge of all the pilgrimage route and the whole order of the temple and the rituals and the rules and everything else. And into their very midst, then, at this Pool of Siloam, Jesus takes the game to a whole new level and really lays down a challenge both to that community and indeed to each of us. What is that challenge? That challenge is to live by the life which we know pragmatically, or to reach out for the life which he offers, which will take us beyond simply safety and how things always have been, to the possibility of how they might become. Interestingly, the person who was born blind becomes the person who can see. And the person who can see, the Pharisees and the temple authorities, they strangely become spiritually blind. It's funny how Jesus does that. So those who perhaps at the centre of things, those who like to control things and manage things, in that process can close themselves off to the possibility of anything changing, because to be fair, they have a vested interest in keeping the status quo. Those on the edges, well, they tend to be the ones who can see, and then they can actually reach for that which is yet to come. I've had an experience of that only today, and it was both humbling and exciting all at the same time. I'll explain more about that another day. But I can bear testimony as somebody who, in this case, represents the authorities, the church, and yet somebody from the edges came full of enthusiasm, wanting to see the possibility of something. And the question is, can we raise our understanding to go with it, to walk with that person, walk with, in this case, Jesus, to be able to glimpse what could be. And that could be in little things, it could be on a national or even an international scale. But this is something of the Spirit of Jesus. He rarely just keeps you safe in terms of keeping it as it always has been. He more often than not calls you into the possibility of what might be. And that can be scary, that can be hard, but it can also be incredibly exciting and full of possibility. And I think that's possibly what Richard of Chichester was reaching out for in his prayer. Not just nice words, although beautifully put, but actually a call and even a challenge to his own fellow Christians and monks of that community and that day, but also to all of us. Are we willing to try and see Jesus more clearly in our life? What does it look like for Jesus to be in our very midst in all that's going on at the moment, both internationally, locally, and in our churches and in our spiritual life? What is he saying to each of us today? What does it mean to see with his eyes? And then the next phrase really is, are we willing to love him more dearly, to walk with him into that possibility? And that can be difficult, that can be scary, because it means letting go of the side of the swimming pool, for want of a better word, and being willing to try and swim. And then finally, are we willing to follow him more nearly? Leave the edge of that swimming pool behind and actually plough out not only into deeper water, perhaps where we are beyond even our own depth, but also to encourage others to come and discover his life too. And that can be both exciting, it can be very risk-taking. It's not always guaranteed of an incredible success, but it is a life worth living. I always remember the words of the great Ernest Shackleton, a great explorer. In many of the talks he used to give, he used to say, it's better to try and to fail than not to try at all. At least to try and to fail has life within it. Not to try at all means you just give in to the way life always has been. And we need to think more for this world with everything that's going on than just giving in and accepting the status quo. Although they're a good band, nonetheless. Have a good rest of the day, and may we spend a few moments just thinking about, well, what does that mean in my life, in our life together? What does it mean for us to try and follow the words and take these words of Richard of Chichester seriously? And what does the words of Jesus speaking into the life of that blind man say to me today? Where do I find myself in that story? And then am I willing to let go? Have a good rest of the day. God bless. Bye for now. Bye-bye.